right, so now say we're going to move into a little bit of beer tasting. We're not going to be the type of podcast that's super snobbish or too critical. Obviously, if I drink something that's really bad, I'm going to let you know, but I'm just going to give you my thoughts on what we're drinking, the flavors I'm tasting, and let you take it from there. Most of the stuff that we drink, you'll be able to get in Florida somewhere, even if it's not from Florida. And if you see us try something and it's not available, I'm sorry, but I'm definitely going to be trying some stuff that may not be available everywhere is available, but we'll see. And obviously, if you're wanting us to try something, hit us up on Twitter. I'll take a look and see if it's something we can get. And if we can, I'm more than happy to give it a try. So with that said,
if we can't, mail it to us. We'll
Yeah,
drink
hey.
it and we'll give you a shout out and we'll talk about it.
Give us a DM. We'll have you ship it to us and we'll give it a try. More than willing to do that. Obviously, if you ever want to send me beer, I'm 100% down with that. But the first one we're going to try is from Parish Brewing Company. That's in Louisiana. It's called Ghost in the Machine. It's hard with my light to get a good picture, but Ghost in the Machine. There you go. It is an IPA, a juicy double IPA is what it's called. But so.
Yeah, Parish Brewing Company, they killed it with this beer. I'd be interested in knowing what they sell in terms of barrels. I think it's pretty interesting. They still package them in bottles.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, I suppose, that they're doing cans now, maybe back home, but yeah, they're 4-packs of bottles. And
according to their website, they're only available in bottles of 4-packs, and probably obviously if you go there you can probably get a crowler or a growler of it, but according to their website it says available in 12-ounce 4-packs. So
yeah,
but if you're looking for it, look for the kind of rainbow skull, sugar skull thing. It's got a bandana with hops on it. It's pretty interesting. I'll throw a picture up on the end of the label and you can take a look and keep it in your mind if you want to come across it. But
yeah, they I wasn't one of the first on this beer. I still, of course, take recommendations all the time, and I hadn't had it about a year ago. It's great beer, really cool story, and they don't have a ton of craft beer in Louisiana yet either, but they've got a couple pretty big hitters.
Mm-hmm.
And
they have one I know everyone's heard of.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as breweries, everyone's heard of Abita.
Everybody, Abita was. I always go back and forth. I think that Abita was the first craft beer I ever had. I think Purple Haze was the first was modern era craft beer I ever had.
Purple Haze is probably one of the first several. At least I been drinking it long enough that I couldn't tell you necessarily, but Purple Haze is definitely in one of the first few that I saw on tap at bigger locations,
and they had super cool pint glasses.
They had like these places, like
crazy frosted purple glassware that they would give to the bars. So they would give you this glass and you'd be like, dude, what is this? And nobody served beer in glasses like that.
No, it was all frosted.
They spent a lot of money on that.
It was all frosted, shaker pints. That's the only thing at best you ever got most before, but they definitely stepped their game up with the marketing on the glassware and everything. So it's definitely one of the first few of the bigger ones that I ever drank.
Yeah.
I could probably look at my my Untapped and my Brass Tap app and kind of like trace back and see some of the earlier ones, but it wouldn't even go back to the first ones I was drinking. And it was probably definitely
Yeah, I
Had
mean,
to be
and
up there.
and Parish, Parish is gigantic.
Hmm.
At this point, they've built a brand new brewery in 2012. They completed and opened. So they've been around since that first run. 2009 is an interesting year. I'm not sure Parish's story in terms of exactly when they started, but 2009 for me, I know when Cigar City started. I also know that's when Surly in Minnesota started. Those two
Hmm.
breweries ended up becoming absolute monsters. And that was sort of that beginning of that second craft beer wave in the country where you had a lot of the mavens that were out there, obviously the
Hmm.
Sierra Nevadas and New Belgiums of the world, but then it got a little bit smaller and the tap room became a real player, and all of a sudden these breweries just were popping up everywhere you go. And that was right in that wheelhouse here for Parish too. um,
Hmm.
yeah, they got
I mean,
they have
I
10
believe,
year-round beers, so
yeah,
that's a big ass operation.
it's got to be a big operation if your year-round beers are of that level. Because most of the kind of medium-sized breweries, you got like 4 to 6, maybe 7 year-round. Like you're a pretty good sized operation. So once you
Yeah.
like go up from there, like the scale of your operation increases, maybe not exponentially, but on a pretty big curve up, because you have to
Yeah.
have a lot more production capability and everything to be able to manage that kind of size. So, but anyway, we're going to give this a
Yeah.
try. And I was going to give a quick overview on that. We're not trying to be super snobby about it. I'm not going to go into like, the body of this beer is almost like I'm not going to be like that, but I'm just like, the important things to do is like the smell, how your beer looks, and it's kind of hard to tell. I'll have to get better lighting for seeing the beer, but you want to look at your beer, smell the beer, taste the beer, and then obviously how it feels in your mouth. It's called mouthfeel, but I'm not going to use that because it sounds super snobby when you say mouthfeel. The
Well, no, I
mouthfeel,
mean,
the mouthfeel of
mouthfeel
this
is
beer.
mouthfeel is perfectly acceptable. That's not snobby.
I don't know,
Um,
but
people understand
I'm just going to
that.
say the feel of the beer.
There's a difference between difference between drinking water and
Yeah,
grape juice and
I'm just going to say the
hot
feel.
chocolate.
I'm not
All
going to
those
say the
things feel differently.
mouthfeel
I think people understand that.
because the feel, how you're feeling beer, and it's not with your fingers. But so the feel of beer, those are the four main things that you're going to look for. Um, and a little trivia, if you ever want, when we post this up, if you want to answer this trivia question, how many different types of beer are there as far as major styles? Feel free to hit us up in the comments under this and give us your answer. Um, and I'll save that for later. But so we're gonna give trying out the Ghost in the Machine from Parish Brewing a try and just kind of break it down for you a little bit. And cheers.
Yeah, I think that this beer is just really, really good. I mean, what's the ABV?
8.5%. That
8.5. It's dry
8.5.
and
Yeah.
a little garlic on the end. It's
Yeah.
just really, really nice. At 8.5, it's not too sweet. You can tell with the mouth feel is certainly double IPA, but you feel like you could have a couple.
Yeah. It's not an overly bitter type of hops in it. I
Got a
mean,
great nose. It's
I
really,
believe
really big fruity beer. I mean, it's
it
all.
smells like citra hops. Um, and citra hops are, of course, going to give you that more of that citrusy, juicy kind of flavor. And um, being a double IPA, the feel of it's going to feel a little bit more heavy, a little bit more stick to your kind of tongue. Um, But
Yeah,
what you can expect when you taste it, it's going to be juicy, citrusy, and it's going to be fruity, and it's going to be bitter. Don't get me wrong. I when I worked at a craft beer bar, I heard a lot of I don't want something that's super hoppy. And what people meant by hoppy, what I came to learn after working there for a while was I don't want something that's overly bitter. Um, there are plenty of hops that aren't overly bitter, but you still get that bitterness. But there's other
yeah,
flavors involved. You know, there are different hop flavors and different hop profiles that are going to give you a lot more of the bitterness, but this is definitely more along the lines of juicy, citrusy, and super flavorful, really. And it's
yeah. I mean,
definitely
there's a good firm bitterness. It's I mean, it's a double IPA. So to make a double IPA, overly bitter would require a ridiculous amount of hops, because of the sugars in that beer.
yeah.
You're already going to have a nice balancing um, profile to the beer with the
Hmm.
with the sugars, and it's I've had many double IPAs that are just really really sweet, not very good,
Hmm.
and
It's about
um,
balance.
rarely do I have a double IPA that I think has too much hops, because my guess is IBU on this beer is still almost 100, and it doesn't, you can't really tell, because I mean it's just really well done,
And
but it's also
I have my questions about the whole IBU thing anyway, because scientifically I'm sure you can measure things out, but from like a tasting perspective, I have questions about it. There's a lot of things that I've seen with these really high IBUs, and I actually have a 1,000 IBU beer in my beer storage, which maybe I'll bring down for the USF game, and we can we can record ourselves drinking that just to
absolutely.
see if there's like any real like level of IBU that's tastable at that point. But I have my questions about that because when it's counterbalanced by so much else, like I feel like IBU is almost kind of a waste of a point. Like, what's the point? Because so many
Yeah,
of
there.
the IPAs being made now are being made with such citrusy and the more citrusy, juicy hop flavor profiles that the IBUs are almost irrelevant. And now I've definitely had some like super dry hopped beers that were in the almost double IPA kind of range, if not the double IPA range, that were had a lot of bitterness to them. But you almost really have to be like really trying to make something super bitter to really manage that with how many of the hops that are being used are so juicy and citrusy and along those kind of lines.
um yeah, I kind of lost your train of thought. I mean, IBU is not necessarily relevant.
Yeah, that's what I'm
IBU
saying.
is it's a real thing. There is a measurement. You
I look at it
certainly
like
have.
I look at it like Scoville units, like with your like heat on peppers. It's like you can say something is this hot, but if you're defraying a lot of this other stuff with other flavors, then it's relevant, but there's a lot more to it. It's kind of my point of view.
Well, yeah, people don't know what they're talking about. That's the problem. People think that IBUs matters to what the beer tastes like to them, and it doesn't. The IBU, for those out there who aren't aware, stands for International Bittering Units, and it is a scientific method to measure how bitter the uh, the the drink is. In this case, our beer. The alpha acids in hops create bitterness,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so there is a measurement for it. But example I use all the time is you can make a 9% double IPA that has an IBU of 90, and you can drink Invasion from Cigar City, which has an IBU of like 45, and Invasion will be and taste more bitter.
Yeah.
Because 90 for a 9% beer isn't enough hops by and large to make that balance and give yourself a bitterness, a firm bitterness to complement the sugars. Whereas Invasion is 5.4%. It's a nice sessionable beer, and it's quite hoppy. And as a result, it's quite bitter for what it is. So, that's
the more you're adding to it as far as like sugars or other flavors, the less the IBUs are going to be like as noticeable as far as like actual bitter or actual like hop flavor, which most people, when they say hop flavor, they mean bitter. So obviously,
which isn't correct.
But that's what I learned working at craft beer bars. I don't like hoppy. I was like, well, all these beers have hops, and some of them have more hops than you'd expect, but you just don't taste it because of all the other flavors involved. So, but yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and I wouldn't judge based off of IBUs if you're worried about bitterness. But if you're at a brewery or a bar where they'll let you do a taste, just get a taste and see, and you'll find out that some of them have a bitterness that matches what you were expecting, some won't, and some will have a lesser IBU, and like Matt's saying, like Invasion, it'll taste more bitter. So it's not something that I would judge a beer off of just reading it off of a menu. It's just more information to take in. So I always recommend just tasting. If you get the opportunity and they'll let you taste beer, just taste the beer and find what you like.
Yeah, some people like bitter, but that's why they've been able to create happiness without bitterness, and they've brought a lot of people to the table. That's why I don't think that trend is going anywhere anytime soon.
No, definitely not.
It's a pleasant type of beer to drink when it's done well, and but to the contrary, there are people who do love a firm bitterness.
Oh yeah.
And those profiles too. And so, that, and they have their time and their place, and they have their food pairings, and they have great flavor profiles too. So it really is just a function of what you like and what you want to. You can train your palate to change.
Yeah, definitely. I pretty much will drink any beer at least once. There's not been very many beers I wouldn't drink at least twice, but there are beers I definitely won't buy and drink regularly, or I'll see in the store and be like, no thanks. But I definitely am somebody that will drink and appreciate the super hoppy, as some people call them, but the bitter beers. I'll drink basically any kind of beer. So, and I'm always willing to try new things. And I don't want to say like I proselytize about beer, but like I've said before, possibly even when we've recorded, is I don't think there's as many people that don't like beer out there as think that they don't like beer out there. I think there's a lot of people that just haven't found the beer style or the type of beer that they would appreciate. And I really do think there's something in the craft beer for everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot of profiles. I mean, even in wine and whiskey, and there's there's really not other alcohol styles that can create flavor profiles that'll give you things like a Guinness, and that'll give you a Ghost in the Machine, and that will give you a Blue Moon. I mean,
Hmm.
and then you got tart stuff in there, and just a wild array of flavor profiles that certainly also believe that there are people who might think they don't like beer. And I have talked to many at the brewery that when you find something that is just a little bit different or outside what they believe beer is, then it's easy to turn people on. And then at that point, it's easy to turn them on to the next thing, because now they're really interested and they're
Hmm.
excited, and their palate will change.
That's
And
what I've done
it'll
with
do
my
it.
wife. I started her with some sours and moved her into some gozes, and now she'll try just about anything I bring around at least once. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
expect you to drink everything I drink, but if you just give it a taste, I'm fine with that. All right.
Well, I need to show everybody this. I can also help you get one if you want. This is my
Hold it
bottle
up a little bit
opener,
more.
and this is on the bottom. And here's the best part: when you put your bottle in there and take the top off, the top falls down and it's magnetized. So you don't even have to reach down to pick up your beer top. I I don't quite remember where I got this, but if you would like some, she makes a bunch of different ones, all kinds of cool ones. You can email at openbottlepolicy@gmail.com
She'll hook you up.
and see what the heck you got. Or Instagram is at you down with hip hop. Or no, you down with OBP, open bottle policy. You down with OBP. Yeah,
Love it.
I honestly I can't remember where I got this, but she had a bunch of different ones. Some market. It was awesome, and wanted to share
Hey,
that.
anything that prevents me from having to bend down to pick up a bottle top, and the
Absolutely.
occasion I drop it, it's well worth it for me.
Absolutely.